It's just such a pleasure to see all your bikes. And I was just curious, we'll take a quick look at those in a few minutes, but you have this special bike up on the stand then, and just curious, out of all the bikes, when I said, hey, pick one bike, one of your BSAs, why you would pick this particular bike.
Okay. My name's Ron. I've been collecting BSAs for 20 years. Oftentimes I'll find a basket case and I try to bring the bikes back to the original condition, and once they're up and running and I've ridden them for a while, then I go on to the next project. Unfortunately, I've got more BSAs than I need. I think I have 35 motorcycles and 30 BSAs, and out of the 30 BSAs, 28 run. When Mike asked me to pick a bike I like the best, I could have shown you bikes that are very unique, very popular bikes, but I wanted to pick this BSA Dandy. These bikes were scooters that were produced in the UK to compete with bikes coming from Italy, Asia, Germany, and this bike sold for around 70 pounds, $100 back in the 1950s. The period they were produced, 1956 to 1962. And the reason that I like this is it's a two-stroke bike. It produced 70 cc's. It produces about 3.25 horsepower. And it was a classic failure. And they were never imported to the United States. How I came to acquire this bike is the prior owner had taken his Olds 88 to Vancouver, British Columbia. He found it there, he purchased it, he took it apart, put it in the trunk of his car, and drove back to Hillsboro, Oregon, where he reassembled it. And it's such a unique bike, it's primarily for a museum. The reason I restored it, but I don't ride it because I can't find parts. This is, I believe, 1957, and the difficult part is if I try and ride it and something breaks, I'm not sure I can find parts. It took me approximately 6 months to find the few remaining parts I needed to just make this bike complete. The Dandy has some unique features. These scooters were built very inexpensively, and this whole back section, the wheel assembly and the motor, all pivot on this bolt, and this functions as your swing arm bolt, and you have two springs here, and this is going up and down, but everything pivots on the bolt. That was really
including the engine.
Including the engine. Also, the carburetor is enclosed inside the engine. It had a tendency to get hot. And so most people looking at this bike would wonder, where's the carburetor? These engines had a cast iron cylinder, and so when they got hot, they overheated. Yeah. So if you were going on a 1 or 2 mile jaunt to a friend or a store, you were okay, but if you wanted to go for an hour ride, you'd sometimes have to pull over and cool it down. In this particular model of two-stroke engine, there were two roller bearings on the inside of the engine, and every 5 to 10,000 miles you had to split the cases and re-grease those bearings or replace them and put them back together. Later years, by 1959, they actually had holes in the cases. They put in Zerk fittings and they could actually lubricate those bearings. The first model actually had a rod, and so to start the bike you pulled back on this rod, and there was not a kickstarter. And later on they realized that it wasn't working in the marketplace, so they put a kickstarter, which is on the back of the bike here. There were claims for horsepower on this, and it's been alleged that this had 3 1/4 horsepower, but some people would say not over 2. All the literature I've read on these bikes is they were not successful, they overheated, and when they quit running, it was too expensive to repair them, so people would push them behind a hedgerow. And so this is my one classic bike that's probably the rarest I have in my collection, and it's there for your enjoyment because you'll probably never see one in the United States.
Absolutely.
I'm afraid to move it, it might fall apart.
So you actually lifted that up there yourself then, physically?
Yeah.
Then?
Yeah. No, I think it maybe 120 pounds or something, or maybe It might not even be that heavy.
It's all right, Ron.
Don't go there, Ron. Don't go
It's
there.
okay.
You're older now.
Okay,
Careful.
So it's not that heavy.